In today's video, I'm going to give you some mindset tips for pitching in slow pitch. Now, if you're new here, I'm Blewett. I'm a former pro baseball player, and I was a pitcher. I was a pitcher for 22 years in baseball. Now, I don't really pitch much in slow pitch. I'll fill in once in a while if we need someone who can throw strikes. But honestly, it's not my thing. I love playing the outfield. I like playing the infield a little bit. But here's the fun thing for me. Many of the same mental challenges that I faced in baseball are the same challenges I see pitchers face. And there's a lot of little things going on that I notice that are interesting to me to see how batters are reacting to a certain pitcher, how certain pitchers' antics are helping them or hurting them. So I'm just going to share some of my observations. If you want to say, hey, Dan, you don't pitch enough in slow pitch, I'm not going to listen to you. That's totally fine. But I think you'll appreciate some of these insights that I'm going to share because the stuff that I went through pitching in front of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people are many of the same things that I see pitchers struggle with, even in slow pitch. Number one, do not be a back against the wall pitcher in slow pitch. And what I mean by that is lots of pitchers, they feel like, oh, it's 1-1, brand new count. I have pitches to play with. And guess what? They consistently fall behind. And then they lock in. All right, it's 3-1. I really got to focus up. All right, it's 3-2. I really got to not walk this person. It's a type. It was a type in pro ball too. I had teammates like this. They were always falling behind the count. And then you can see it, something changes. And now they throw some good pitches and they catch up. But they always end up falling behind and they walk more hitters. And they basically do this because they like the stress. They don't realize it, but they don't like this early part of the at-bat where it's like, oh, it's not that important what happens on this first pitch. It's not that important what happens on the second pitch. It only becomes important to them now when it's crunch time. That is not a good way to be. You want to get locked in on that first pitch and try to get ahead because now you can do more things and you put them on the defensive. It is the same in baseball as it is in slow pitch, which is a fun observation for me to notice. So number one, do not be that person. Really lock in early and say, this is the most important pitch of the at-bat. This one right now, let me focus up and make that first pitch really count. Number two, as a pitcher in slow pitch, do not let unsettled hitters settle in. Here's what I mean by that. You should be watching the dugout, looking to see who's on deck, who's in the hole, and how they're preparing for their at-bat. Because it's a social sport, right? And lots of players will be just socializing and then, hey, John, it's your turn to bat. And they go, oh crap. And they run over, they grab their bat. They don't even put on their batting gloves and they run in and they don't even have time to take a practice swing. And now they're in the box. That's what I mean by an unsettled hitter. So with that hitter, you've got to be locked in and say, this person was having a conversation about their dinner party 2 seconds ago. Now they're in the box. They're not ready to hit. So I'm going to attack them and I'm going to try to throw a good pitch that I want them to swing at early because this is basically a practice swing they're going to take. They're going to take a rusty swing on the first pitch. Yeah, sometimes they'll get hits, but in general, if you fall behind, throw a ball, throw another ball, you've given them time to collect themselves and get in the right mindset now to hit. Don't let them do that. If there's a person just screwing around being social and they're unsettled when they get in the box, attack them right away and encourage them to swing because they're probably going to take an ugly, unfocused hack. My next tip is have a way to reset mentally. This is something I teach to baseball players, to fast pitch players in my clinics. It's the same thing here. If you throw 2 pitches for balls and now it's 3-1, the bases are loaded and you're feeling it, you have to have a way to get yourself back to your center. And there's a 4-step or 3-step method to do that. Number one is take a deep breath. That gets time back on your side. It gets some oxygen in you. It helps relax you. The deep breath is a very important first step. Number two, this is the optional step, is a reset action. A reset action could be taking off your cap and then putting it back on. It could be a little tap to your leg. It could be taking your glove off and putting your glove back on. The reset action is saying that bad thing that I just did, falling behind 3-1, I've let it go. That frustrating call the umpire just blew, like that was definitely a strike, but the umpire called it a ball. I've let it go. Now, once the glove goes back on my hand, I've let it go. And then the next step is positive self-talk. Let's get a strike here. You can do this. You can do this, right? Positive self-talk is the next step. And then the last one is focus on just this next pitch, the smallest action item on your list, which is I don't need to climb out from a 3-1 hole. I just need to throw one strike. I need to throw one pitch as well as I can possibly throw it. So when we start worrying about, I got to get 3 outs, I got to get out of this inning, we have a 4-run lead, I don't want to blow it, I got to throw 3 strikes in a row. Those are bad thoughts that are putting you in the future or worrying about past bad results. So you want to get that last step is the smallest present moment item. One pitch to the best of my ability. So that's the 4-step reset process. Deep breath, a reset action, that when you do that reset action, you're mentally moving on from the bad thing you just did. Number 3, positive self-talk. You know, hey, I'm a good strike thrower. Let's get back in this. And number 4, the smallest action item that you can do right now. One pitch, execute it as best you can. Real quick, do you want to support my channel and get access to hundreds of member-only videos? If so, click the join button that you'll find right below and learn more about becoming a channel member. My next tip is do not sleep on the bottom of the lineup. And here's the problem. Lots of pitchers fall into a mental lull when they get to 7, 8, 9, 10. They're like, okay, these are the less dangerous hitters, and they become a little unfocused and they fall behind. And guess what? When you walk the 9-hole hitter and you walk the 10-hole hitter, now there's 2 base runners for 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where big innings come from. This was a big lesson I learned from baseball. Obviously, you don't want to walk anybody. And so it's not the point to say, oh, don't walk the 9 hitter. Like, it's easy to say that. The point is, do not let your intensity drop when you get to the bottom of the lineup. And that's what often happens, because our intensity goes up when it's the top of the lineup, right? These are the tough hitters. I got to really focus up. This is the top of the lineup. And then you sort of take a break when you get to the bottom. And guess what? You walk the bottom hitters, and now they're all on base. And now they all come around to score when 1, 2, 3, and 4 do what they do. So if you want to be really successful, you got to remind yourself, hey, bottom of the lineup, I got to focus up, get ahead of all these hitters. These are the weakest hitters. I want them to put the ball in play. I refuse to walk the 7, 8, 9, or 10. I refuse to walk them because they're the outs that we need. And when they put the ball in play, we have the highest % chance of getting them out of anyone in the lineup. My next tip for slow pitch pitchers is watch hitters' swings and think about how you might exploit them or things you should avoid based on their swing path. So hitters with a big uppercut is a really good example. They're going to hit stuff really well down farther in the zone, where that's where their bat plane lives. That's where their bat path is. Hitters with a big uppercut, if you pitch them higher, they are much more likely to sky a pop-up. So if I was pitching and there's a person with a big uppercut, I'm probably gonna say, okay, I'm gonna go a little more high loft, and I'm gonna try to go a little deeper, and I'm gonna try to encourage this person to see that big fat pitch high and take their uppercut hack and pop that thing up. Whereas if that person's got that uppercut swing and I'm pitching them a little bit lower, a little flatter, it's gonna kind of fall right into the path of their bat. Hitters where their hands cast out, they're gonna have a tougher time hitting inside pitches. Hitters where they step in the bucket, they're gonna have a tough time hitting outside pitches. So there's lots of different observations that you could make that can help you inform your pitching strategy to the next hitter as they step into the box. All right, my next tip for pitchers in slow pitch is don't be too tricky. And here's what I mean by that. And this is a good example from the baseball world. There are always pitchers, all right, they're 0-2, and now they're trying to throw the perfect slider, the perfect curveball, the perfect changeup, and they're just trying to like do all these things to really trick the hitter. I'm gonna throw the backdoor slider, I'm gonna do this and that. And then before you know it, they've walked them. Or they got to 3-2 count before they could get the ball put in play. And now that pitcher doesn't go very deep in the game. They walk 3 extra batters because they're trying to trick too many hitters, where they could just be like, dude, just throw a decent curveball. Just throw a fastball in the corner. You don't have to be perfect to get people out. Stop trying to trick every hitter and throw the perfect, nasty off-speed pitch. In slow pitch, the same stuff happens. It's just a little bit different flavor. In slow pitch, this looks like, okay, let me screw around, throw a knuckleball. Now I'm gonna throw this like kind of curveball that comes back over the plate. And you do that, and now you're 3-1. And now you try to focus up and throw a strike, but it's a ball. And now you walk that hitter because you're screwing around on your first 2. Now, if you're really good with your knuckleball, or you're really good putting some spin on it, and you can consistently locate that, fine. But if you can't, stop screwing around so much, because you're just falling behind, and then you have to give them a cookie, and now you're also just going to walk more batters. If you're out here walking 5 batters or more in a game, your team's probably going to lose. So you've got to throw strikes. So just make sure you're not focusing too much on doing the unimportant, tricky stuff that really doesn't move the needle, and really just focus on throwing quality strikes, getting hitters out of the box, make them put it in play. It's slow pitch after all, right? But don't do all that tricky stuff that just racks your pitch count up, walks more hitters, and gets you in trouble. My next tip for pitchers in slow pitch is to watch how hitters prepare for their at-bat and to take notes on what they've done in previous at-bats. Now, that won't sound groundbreaking to you, but there's a lot to be learned on the on-deck circle. Watch which hitters are sort of out to lunch, which ones are still socializing partly, which ones are just like taking real casual swings, and then watch which ones are looking at you and are timing it up and are taking very purposeful swings, because that's going to inform you about their sort of approach to the plate and how you're going to have to pitch them, and whether they're going to be really demanding in what they swing at and really specific, or if they're just going to wave all over at stuff, right? If you have someone who's very unfocused in the on-deck circle and the way they prepare, they are probably not very disciplined in the batter's box. They're probably going to swing at all sorts of stuff. They probably don't know what pitch they drive very well. So you can learn a lot from how people prepare and what happens in their bats. So if they swing at junk in the first at bat, don't forget it. They'll probably swing at junk in the second at bat too, right? My next tip for pitchers in slow pitch is watch how hitters take pitches. So you'll learn a lot from when they swing, they foul it off, all that sort of stuff. You'll learn a lot when they swing the bat, but you'll also learn a lot too when they take. When they take a pitch, are they on their front foot? Do they barely hold their hands back? Or do they sort of spit at it? Like they're still very much in their mechanics. That's not a pitch they're going to drive, right? Do they take stuff right out of the hand? Can they identify it? Like as soon as it leaves your hand, they know it's not going to be a strike. Or are they tracking it to the very, very end? You're going to learn a lot of different little clues about how disciplined this hitter is that maybe you can exploit later. Okay, they tend to really lunge at stuff. I can probably start to drag them towards me throwing stuff that's not making it to the plate, right? Or if they're very disciplined in the way they take, okay, I probably have to be really sharp here and knowing that they're not going to swing at something that's outside their hittable zone. So really pay attention, not just to swings, but how hitters take. Next tip, know who ambushes. Ambushing is swinging on the first pitch. If you know, then your tactic might be, I want to exploit that. I want them to swing. What pitch can I make look very hittable that's really not that hittable, right? For hitters with power, it's probably something pretty high where they're like, okay, I got it. I can just smash that over the fence because it's already eye level. But then if it's here, you know, every couple inches makes it much more likely they're going to pop that pitch up. Now, if it's a hitter who likes low balls, if you can get that pitch that's going to drag them forward onto their front leg, where it's not going to make it to the plate, but it looks like it will, that's an easy one pitch, you know, butt out sort of swing. And don't try to avoid contact, get contact. You want contact with hitters who ambush because you get a one pitch out and you can exploit their aggressiveness. My next tip for pitchers in slow pitch is know who doesn't want to hit. Walking in slow pitch, like trying to draw walks, is pretty lame. So if you can tell that this hitter basically has the bat on their shoulder and they're not going to swing until they get to 2 strikes, really lock in early and try to get ahead of them. Get that first strike, and when you can do that, all right, now I'm going to force this person to hit. You're not going to get to walk for free today, right? Especially in the bottom of the lineup. This is really dangerous. If you walk the 9 hitter, you walk the 10 hitter, guess what? You got 2 runners on base for the best 4 hitters who are coming up next. That's why people often worry about, oh, I walked the 3-0 hitter. That's a much less damaging walk. Damaging walks are walking the 9 hitter and the 10 hitter, who are not as strong typically, who are then going to be on base when the lineup turns over. And my last tip for slow pitch softball pitchers is know what you do and do not control. You do not control anything that happens after the pitch leaves your hand. Yes, you have to field your position, but you don't control where the ball goes. So you have to let go of those frustrations where you make a good pitch and they bloop it over the infield. Or it's just one of those innings where everything they hit finds a hole, right? Those happen, especially in slow pitch with higher bat speeds and ball speeds and a smaller dimension field. So it's really, really important. And this is one of the biggest life lessons I learned being a pitcher for 22 years. I control my preparation. I control my intensity. I control my focus. I control my ability to try to execute as best I can and my pitch selection. And then, of course, I do control fielding my position, right? But other than that, I don't control the umpire. I don't control bat ball outcomes. I don't control any of that. And so you have to really narrow your focus to what you do control and try your best to stay emotionally steady and non-reactive to the many bad luck outcomes that will happen, right? You'll make good pitches and you will give up hits and home runs. You'll make bad pitches and get outs. That's pitching. It doesn't matter if it's baseball, fast pitch, or slow pitch. Make sure you're in a constant state of reminding yourself what you do and don't control and really drill down and focus on what you do and try to let go and stay emotionally steady around the stuff that you don't. All right, softball friends, so hopefully you learned something today. I actually think it's really fun that there's a lot of lessons from my baseball career that really do apply to pitching and slow pitch, even though they're so vastly different. But for you as a pitcher, knowing that this is a really offensive heavy game, there's still a lot of nuance and a lot of things that you can control that can make you better than the next guy or next gal that your team may not realize that you're doing. They're like, hey, every time Josh pitches, every time Kelly pitches, we seem to come out on top. There's a lot of these little things that do add up where maybe you're saving your team a couple runs every game, and the fact that you almost never walk anybody and you're really pitching people tough, it does make a difference. So if you have any other questions, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, share this with a friend, and I'll see you here in the next video.